Same seats, same seats, same mates. Every other week, scarf up, heads high. Hear the cockerel speak. White and blue in my blood, in my name. Born and bred for the lane, for the lane. We are Tottenham, super Tottenham from the lane. Sing it louder, feel it running through your veins. THFC till we die, that's the way. We are Tottenham, super Tottenham from the lane. Oh yeah! Hey, hey, old boys, young kids, all in one song. Heartbreak, hailstorms, still we march on. Under lights, under rain, it's the same. All in, all out, for the badge, for the name. We are Tottenham, super Tottenham from the lane. Sing it louder, feel it running through your veins. THFC till we die, that's the way. We are Tottenham, super Tottenham from the lane.
Yes, guys, welcome to a new podcast. Yes, welcome to me and Steve. It is football, not soccer. So I've been told. I don't know. What do I know? It's soccer in Ireland. It's soccer in America. Only the English call it football. You know, soccer has a better ring to it in mind. But what do we know? Joining me, of course, in this, my usual podcast co-host, a man that needs no introduction. A man that's led America to the round of 16 in the World Cup. He's also convinced Pochettino to spend the rest of his life in America. If he doesn't, Steve will follow him and hound him till he does. And also, he is the man that if he ran for president, I reckon, right, I'm not just saying this for me, I reckon if he ran for president, he would win every state apart from Alaska.
Oh, I don't know about that.
Why?
Oh, I don't know about that.
We do not know, but it is my mate Steve from the lovely, windy Seattle. Steve, how are you today, bud?
Not bad. I'm
Place
actually
where you live. Totally wrong. I'm just
yeah. No, I am from the windy city of Seattle, but I'm currently in the fighting town of Flint, Michigan. But what I will say is that intro, by the way, was absolutely fantastic. I hadn't seen your new intro, and I actually rather enjoyed it. But two things. Number one, there is a plan in place to have Pochettino for the next 4 years before he comes back to Spurs. It is a plan. It is in place. And number two, I probably wouldn't even get 1% of the general election vote. So, I don't think I would be running for president anytime soon. But I do appreciate the
I vote for you. I vote for you. I'll give you my vote. There you go.
Yeah. By the way, if I can curtail the Irish vote, yes, that would be great. Unfortunately, I think that's still less than what, maybe 1% of the total vote. I don't know.
Oh, yeah. Well, just give us plenty of alcohol. We'd be grand. We'd be like Scots and drink you dry.
Yeah,
that intro is the new transfer intro. There is a new main intro coming in the works. So I can't wait for that. But big up O'Connor Designs.
Yeah, I'm going to have to get a hold of O'Connor Designs too, because I want to get something fresh for the start of the season. So yeah, I'm going to have to jump on board.
Yeah, big up to O'Connor Designs, the proud sponsor of THFC2 and the proud sponsor of this podcast as well. All your descriptions will be below. Steve's channel description will be below. Also JRYS and also O'Connor Designs, how you can get hold of him. Steve, it's been a while since we've done a show. Yeah. We've sort of got rid of last season. We've entered the World Cup, and I haven't had a chance to talk to you since the World Cup started, but we will talk about that in a while. Tottenham, what the hell has happened to our football club? The owners are saying what they actually meant, which is kind of shocking. What have you made? Look, I'm over delighted with the transfers, but I was saying it the other night to Billy. I'm more impressed with the free transfers than I am with the actual transfers. And all these other fans, we can do this because we're allowed to do it. Aston Villa and Newcastle, you can't do it because you overspent over the last 3 years. You broke the rules. You've got fined. Get on with it. It's really starting to bug me. It's really bugging me, Steve. All these fans coming out. Oh, Spurs are spending money. Idiots.
Well, first of all, if you're a fan of Manchester United, understand that it's not our problem and it's not our fault that you guys are carrying $1.5 billion worth of debt and you're trying to build a new stadium. That is not our fault. Also, if you're an Aston Villa fan, understand that it's also not our fault that over the course of the last 3 to 5 years, you guys have spent 96% of your revenue to transfer percentage on incomings. And now you're you're in a position where you're going to have to get rid of players just so you can curtail the PSR, the profitability and sustainability rules and all that other stuff. So it is not our fault. Understand. Let's go ahead and take a step back, Dermot. Let's go back to January during the window where Vinny Venkatesham comes out and says that we are going to be aggressive in the market and we are going to raise our wages that would reflect that of what we desire to be, which is a Big Six club. And at the time, it was tone deaf because Johan Lang did absolutely nothing in the January window outside of bringing in Conor Gallagher. So we end up hiring Roberto De Zerbi, and we gave him something crazy over a 5-year period. And I think that when you spend that type of money on a guy like Roberto De Zerbi, you have a financial responsibility to back him. You have to. Like it's why would you buy a Maserati and then park it in a trailer park? It makes absolutely no sense. You absolutely have to do everything in your power to make sure that he has a team on the pitch that is capable of winning the Premier League. And I do believe that Spurs are doing the right things in order to get to that level. Now, you mentioned the freeze, and I absolutely think that was a beautiful piece of business. Getting Senesi and getting Andy Robertson over the line on freeze, I thought that was great business. But when it comes to Mateus Fernandes and it comes to Sandro Tonali, the fact that we shattered our transfer record in 24 hours on two different deals was unbelievably amazing. And I got to be honest with you, Dermot, I was taken back because when I see 85 million pounds and I see 100 million pounds, I'm thinking that 15 to 20 goals are coming with that. And it does for a second I was taken back that we just spent literally 185 million pounds on two midfielders. But I also think back to when Manchester City spent 100 million plus pounds on Jack Grealish, Declan Rice with Arsenal going for 100 million pounds as well too. And unfortunately, if you want to get better with proven Premier League players, there is a price that you're going to have to pay. And under Daniel Levy, he was not willing to do it. But under Vinny Venkatesham, Roberto De Zerbi, and the new guy from Manchester City, not only are we willing to do it, we are going to do it. And I also think that in a weird way, Daniel Levy does play a role into this because of his frugality and the fact that we were only spending 42% of our wage budget relative to revenue for all those years, that we had funds available in order to do this.
Yeah, I agree.
You look at when you look at the bigger picture here, this was like 5-6 years in the making ever since the stadium opened, that we got to a point where we can actually now spend. And we're not just spending on players from Italy, France, whatever the case may be. We're spending for players that our direct rivals want. Tonali was wanted by City and Arsenal. Mateus Fernandes was also wanted by Arsenal, and I think it was Manchester United. And we outbid them. Like that. That's phenomenal.
It is. And look, you can say, have we slightly overspent? I think we did tightly. We know Man United walked away from the Fernandes deal because they weren't willing to go above a certain price. And, that's their prerogative. If they don't want to pay it, they don't. One thing about it, we're paying these players wages as well, which we've never done before. Our wage structure has been broken. For what was explained to me was, if we do qualify for Europe, we will get a slight headache because I think it's 85% you're allowed to spend up to if you're not in Europe, and it's 17%. So there's a 15% different from in Europe and not in Europe. But I don't think it's going to affect us that much. It may affect our business next summer, but it's these owners. It's not just one summer, isn't it? It's January. It's next summer. It's the summers after that. So January's after that. They have to constantly now back managers, whoever comes in. It's not just a one-thing wonder. And that's important to say that we have not stepped off from this ownership. If there were to go, I think we all would be happy to see new owners in there. But if this is the way the Lewis family or 2.0 is going to continue, then fine. But it has to be done in these terms. People seem to forget, and Simon Jordan is right. They're still the same owners from 25 years ago. And Joe Lewis is sort of last summer and last January, Steve, you know as well as I do, it was the attitude of, well, look, it's not our fault. It's Jack over there. How many times did they criticize the training facilities? How many times did they use the stadium as an excuse? And it was excuse after excuse after excuse. We nearly got relegated. Let's not forget that.
Correct.
And I do you know what, Steve? In my view, I think these owners, this is the right step, but they have to continue doing it. It can't be just a one-season wonder.
I completely agree. And, to your point about Europe, the good news is that after January, this last January, when we brought in Conor Gallagher and we gave him $200,000 a week, that still kept our wage, our wage to revenue turnovers below 45%. My theory is that we're going to increase it by 20% more, and we're going to be at that 65%, which is going to put us in line with the big four, 5, whatever it is. The only team that goes well above and beyond is Aston Villa. But I think we're going to get into that territory where we're going to keep it at 65%. And we're going to have outgoings as well as incomings. We're going to have to get into that cycle where we're going to have to move players on, whether that makes us uncomfortable. We're going to have to get into that. We cannot continue to operate where we're going to keep guys 1, 2, 3 years past where they should have been sold because of the vibes or because they might be fan favorites. It's like, listen, if we're constantly pushing for the upper echelons of the Premier League, we're going to have to make those decisions to get rid of certain players. Like, I'll give you a good example. We bring in Jan-Paul Van Hecke this summer from Brighton. And the counter move was to sell Luka Vuskovic for $52 million, right? So, I mean, literally what you can say is we bought Jan-Paul Van Hecke for plus £2 million, right? Yeah. And as much as it sucked seeing Luka Vuskovic go, at the same time, that's good business because we didn't keep that extra $52 million in the tuck. We got rid of it to make the numbers are what they are. That's good business. And who knows how Vuskovic is going to develop. For me personally, I didn't like seeing him go. I thought there were better options to move. But now all of a sudden, it's like, what are we going to do with Cudi Romero? Because theoretically speaking, you brought in Van Hecke to be that starting right center back. So what's going to happen with Cudi Romero? Are we going to get rid of him? Well, here's the thing: if we bring in Cody Gakpo to play the left side, and we bring in maybe a Flo Balogun to be a striker, that's probably going to be an extra 120 million pounds right there. And so you're going to have to get rid of players. You're going to have to cycle through that. And if that means you get 50 some odd million pounds for Romero, and maybe we sell somebody else for an equal, all of a sudden now those numbers match up. And that's the thing. It's like, I think we're getting out of this. I think we're getting out of the cycle of not doing good business. And and me personally, I like to see it. Because you know what? We have to cycle through players that we know for a fact are just not good enough at this level. In order for us to get the biggest prizes in this country, we're going to actually have to start operating like a big club. And I'm glad that we've taken the first steps. I'm not going to say we're there, but what I will say is you're absolutely right. This is a great first step. And it's not just about this summer. It's going to be about January and the next summer, and getting this team to be able to compete at the highest levels while conducting good business.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, also with it as well, you made a very good point about selling players. And I know there's an argument, right? We shouldn't be selling Romero. We're making the same mistakes that we did with Harry Kane. Well, Harry Kane wanted to go. He did not want to stay at Tottenham. People can look through the Harry Kane with rose-tinted glasses. Yes, should we have done better while he was with us? Hell yeah. Should we have built a team around Harry Kane and spent money? Yes. Of
course.
If we did this, if Harry Kane was with us, he wouldn't have moved. And we maybe would have won the league or something by now. But there's still the rose-tinted glasses, or you can't let Romero go, oh no, because you're making the same mistake. You're not making the same mistake. Romero wanted to go last summer. We offered him a new contract.
He stayed.
And yes, he may have scored a couple of goals last season. But when we really needed him as captain, when we really wanted him to stand up to be counted, he wasn't there. And I was saying at the end of last season, Mickey van der Ven acted a better captain than Romero. When we lost the game, you saw van der Ven going around to all the players, patting them on the back, geeing them up. Whereas Romero, he'd be halfway down the tunnel. When he walked off, when he got injured at Sunderland, he wasn't crying for us. He was crying because he may miss the World Cup. Now, I get the World Cup's a big thing, but still, we're in the depths of a relegation battle. Your time should be with Tottenham. Now, with him going to Argentina when he was injured, look, at the time I was pissed with him, but I think when you think back of it and look at it logically, I think the club have to take responsibility for that as well. The manager as well. Everyone has to take the pie. And he did come back. He was made forced back, but he came back at the end of the day. Would I be so sad to see Romero go? I probably would be, but not as much. Look, you hear people, Steve, saying he's a liability, and maybe I have called him that myself when he gets sent off in stupid challenges. But I think his head was turned last summer. I really do. And
could be.
I know there's multiple clubs in for him this summer. He hasn't had a stellar World Cup, by the way, either. I don't think he's been he hasn't been great with Argentina. Look, we know Romero's going, we know Vicario's going. I think Alfred Devine could be going out the door. Bergville could be as well. I'd be sad to see Bergville go.
I would too.
One player I want to turn on as well, if we can, Steve, is Archie Gray, because a lot of the fan base would like to sell him. Me, I'm part of the fan base. I think he's going to be a future captain. I think he stood up last season for when we needed him, and Bergville as well. Where are you on the Archie Gray debate? Because it's a very decisive one, but I think it's really unfair when people say, oh, Pagliuca should have got player of the season. Well, if that's your case, then Richarlison should have got it because he was top goal scorer. I think Archie Gray is so underrated by a lot of our fan base, and it's criminal because I think you look what he did last season, Steve. So where are you on it, bud? Where are you on the Archie Gray Bergville debate?
I think there are certain youth players that you can sell. And, when you look at Luka Vuskovic for what we paid and then what we ended up selling on him, that was a very good piece of business. And the same, I guess you can say the same logic would apply with Bergvall and Gray. But the thing about this is that you still have to keep a semblance of youth around the first team. And we're also talking about two kids that have cut their teeth at the Premier League for the last 2 years. Yeah. And for the most part, they've been decent. Have they been lights out? No. But you also have to understand that both of them are like, 2021, right in that area. And here's the thing. It's like these guys are still developing. And one of the things that you're going to need is to not think about just these next 2 years, but the 2 years after that. And then, and you're looking at both Bergvall and Gray when they're like 23, 24, and they've had the first team minutes and they've had that development to get to that point. And then who's going to be taking over in case, like when you're ready to transition from what's going to be happening in these next 2 years versus the 2 years after that. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I do say is like, that's like, I don't have a problem with Mateus Fernandez and I don't have a problem with Sandro Tonali coming in. I think they're great players, but that being said, you also want to keep an eye on the future. And you have two guys who, regardless of what situation we've dealt with the last 2 years, they stepped in admirably, and I think they've done quite well. What I would like to see is Spurs hang on to him. And if that means you loan them out this season so they get first team minutes, whether that be in the Premier League with somebody else, whether that be in Italy, whether that be in Spain, so be it. Let them go out there, let them get their first team minutes and let them develop. You have to be strategic with your loans because you want them playing in a system that is somewhat similar to Roberto De Zerbi. But that being said, it's like me personally, I think it made sense to sell Luka Vuskovic. It made sense at the time, even though I didn't like it. It made perfect sense because you were able to get literally double what you paid, and that made sense. I don't necessarily think you're going to be able to get double what your initial investment is on an Archie Gray or a Lucas Bergvall because they're still considered raw prospects. And so from that standpoint, you know, I liked when we sent Mikey Moore to Rangers. You know, would I have a problem if Bergvall or Gray went up to Scotland this season? Not at all. Not at all. As a matter of fact, I think that would be very good loan moves if they went up north.
I think Celtic are crying out for a midfielder. Get them two in the Celtic midfield. That really upgrades that midfield. I have to say.
But also get him into an environment where winning is important, right? So you mentioned Celtic. That's a perfect environment. Teams that are expecting to win top prizes, you get them into that environment where they understand those expectations. So when they come back, they understand exactly what the expectations are at Spurs, right? So from that standpoint, I just don't think that I think right now selling either Gray or Bergvall would be premature. I really do. But I also recognize that they can't sit on the bench. Without European play this year, there's not going to be a lot of minutes. And so from that standpoint, I would send them out on loan. And I would have no problem doing that, just considering we're actually pretty good in midfield right now. And, you know, we have our first team and our second team in the midfield. And me personally, I just think that it would be beneficial, even if it is loan to get them in the shop window. Right.
Yeah.
I think Spurs need to slow roll both of those.
Yeah, I agree. Look, for me personally, I would keep Gray within the first team this year because I think you will use him, especially in the cup competitions and league games as well. But I think Bergvall, if it's not going to be a route for him, loan him out for a year because we know Bentcourt could be going next summer, so that will open up a spot for Bergvall. We know this year we did get rid of Basuma, thank God. Palunia. I mean, all this talk very quickly on Tottenham, then we are going to move the last segment onto the World Cup. Steve's there sitting with it. If you are listening to this on Amazon or Spotify, Steve is sitting with the biggest smile in his face this side of the United States. He just can't get over it that the USA may win the World Cup. I don't know if I'm stretching it that far, but you never know.
You never know.
Just on the midfield itself, I think our defense is now sorted out. I think Kinski is our number one. I think that's a redemption arc. I think we should stand up and applaud that goalkeeper. I think we need to sort out the left wingers and the striker. If we get Savinho and Rafael Leone from Milan, and then you've got on the right, you've got Mateus Tel and you've got Kudos, and you buy yourself a Vatovic and probably have a Solanke as a backup or buy somebody else as a backup.
Yeah. I agree. I agree with everything.
We're going to be formidable next season.
I agree with everything except for Rafael and Vlahovic. I think those are two guys that you want nowhere near this locker room, especially Rafael. He's been a cancer everywhere he's gone, and Milan is hoping Spurs come in and get him so they can rid themselves of that cancer. Me personally, like if it were me, I'm looking at either Cody Gakpo or Savinho, just because they're Premier League proven. Me personally, I'd rather have Gakpo than Savinho. And then, you know, here's the thing though, and I'm going to disagree with you on Mateus Tel as well too, because now here's the interesting thing about this is I think that Roberto De Zerbi wants to put him back to his natural position, which is striker. In the current atmosphere, that would make three. That would be Solanke, Richarlison, and Mateus Tel. I also know that Dejan Kulusevski will be ready for preseason, and he's going to be battling, you know, Kudus on the right hand side right there, and so those are probably your two right wingers. But what I will say is that if now that not Mauricio Pochettino, but now that Ange Postecoglou is in Saudi Arabia, and if Al Nassr comes in for Richarlison because because Postecoglou loves himself some Richarlison. That's going to open the door for a striker spot, and I like the idea of bringing in Flo Balogun. I think he's a star, but that's just my that is my wish list. And by the way, if it happens, not only will this, and I'm not here to engage in hyperbole, but think of the business that we've done so far, and if we can add a left winger and a striker to this group, this is probably going to be the most historic summer we've had in club history. I can't remember a time where we've had this much impact coming through the door in one summer.
Do you know
one summer?
Yeah, I think this is my 45th year following Tottenham this year, which is mind-boggling. And I've seen some transfer windows in my time, but under ENIC, I agree with you. I think this is the biggest window we've had under this ownership. I think there was bigger transfer windows on the previous ownership, but what we got to remember is those were different transfer windows. You could buy anyone during the season back in the day. It wasn't curtailed to a 2-month. You could buy somebody in the middle of April if you're in the running. So I think, I agree with you. This is the biggest thing. Right, Steve, for the last sort of 5 minutes, we're touching it more. USA. I have to look. We will get your score prediction for Mexico, England at the end, but USA. Can I just say how impressed I have been with the US national team? I watched them the other night. I still can't get over the sending off for your USA player. I think it wasn't a deliberate red card. If you look at Paraguay last night, Steve, as well, a lot of them should be done. If anything slowed down, it looks 20 times worse than what it is. How impressed have you been with the US national team? And also, on top of that, has this team has your expectations been met by what Pochettino has been able to do in this World Cup? And we're going to go on for another 10 minutes, by the way, so take your time with the answer.
No, because I think the expectations were heightened when he got hired. Understand that this is the first time in my 35 years following the national team that the U.S. Soccer Federation paired a coach that matches the strengths of its player pool. The United States has gone from a team that was more defensively solid, that was more of a counterattacking team back in the 90s and in the early 2000s, to a team that has developed attacking players for front-footed football. And as international football has switched from being more pragmatic to more attacking, they went out and hired the right coach that matched the strengths of the team. Now, granted, what I will say is that he only had 18 months to get this right before the World Cup. And, some of the results weren't great. But that being said, the expectation was that, like, for instance, like this last game against Bosnia where we go down a man, a lot of people were like, oh, okay, cool, we're going to park the bus and try to protect the one. It's like, no. We're going to stay on the front foot and we're going to continue to attack, because that's exactly how we play football. Like, we're not going to come out of our shell because something happened. And not only that, we're also not going to come unglued because of it. And that is Pochettino 101. That is one of the things that when you look at it, you're like, okay, dude, I remember that. I remember that from back in Spurs. It's like, that is the way Pochettino has always been. And so from that standpoint, because of that, and when you see it, you're kind of like, oh, well, this is great. This is absolutely fantastic. And so from that standpoint, when you talk about the expectations, Pochettino has said it from day one. It's not about winning the group. It's not about getting a knockout round or two. It's about winning it. And those are what the expectations are. And so when you see it, it's like, well, did it exceed your expectations? It's like, no, this is what is supposed to happen. You know what I mean? Like, that is absolutely fantastic. And it's the mindset that the U.S. players have. It's the home field advantage that is allowing them to even take it to a next level. And so from that standpoint, that's what has been the beautiful thing about the U.S. in this tournament, is that, I think for the casual fans that hadn't been watching, it comes to a shock. But from those that have been watching this national team for 30 years, this is exactly what was expected. This is the reason why he was hired.
Yeah, I agree. Look, I've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed the World Cup mostly. Look, I want to put to bed all the noise around the World Cup because there was a bit of negativity around it. And I'm not trying to be negative. I think it's been a great World Cup. Look, I can remember USA 94. And I think you learned a lot from hosting that World Cup. And you put what you learned from that into this World Cup. So I do feel, also, Steve, I have to say, I feel the media can be I think the media are at fault for focusing on a lot of things, but they should be focusing on the good things. The organization, the stadiums are full. Yes, we can all criticize about ticket prices, and rightly so. But if you look at everything else as a whole, I think it's been a well-organized tournament. Stadiums are full. I love the way that you bring the teams out with the big flags and everyone gets with the national anthem. Yeah. I think Canada's been a great host. I know they're out now. Mexico as well. USA. I wish there was more games in Mexico. The only thing
There's been plenty of games played. There's been plenty of games played in Mexico already. Same with Canada.
The only thing I would like to say, Stephen, this is no disrespect to America. I would have liked the final in the Aztec Stadium because I feel that stadium has more history, and that's no disrespect to the USA and your stadiums and that. Are you happy where the final's being played, or would you have picked somewhere else?
I would have liked to see it.
Wasn't it played? Hang on, wasn't it played in the Rose Bowl in '94?
Yeah. In '94, the final was in LA, in the LA area, and I actually kind of wanted it to be in LA as well too, at SoFi, in downtown LA. I thought that would have been a great. Host venue because you're close to Mexico, and then you're still close to Canada, and you're still close to Mexico, where you can logistically combine all three in it as well too. Aztec Stadium Estadio Azteca would have been a pretty cool final as well too. But I understand why they put it in New York because it is the media capital of the United States. Yeah, and it just is what it is. I wasn't surprised at all by that. But what I will say is we had the same BS before the 2022 World Cup as well too, with all the crap about the human rights violations that Qatar was engaging in. And then, of course, here in the United States, we were coming off the George Floyd riots. And so you also had all of that noise going into the 2022 World Cup. But something miraculous happened as soon as the first ball dropped. All of it went away. And everybody was focused on the football. And what ended up happening was we ended up having a really good tournament in 2022. And I knew the same thing would happen in this one as well, too, that, the ticket prices were crazy. And I know that English fans are still complaining about kickoff times and all this. And, of course, the hydration breaks. But guess what? As soon as the ball dropped, it just went away. And everybody's talking about the football as it should be. And what we're seeing is a very fantastic tournament.
Yeah, don't get me started on hydration breaks. That's a whole different rant, Steve.
But it doesn't. The funny thing is it doesn't bother me at all because I to me personally, it's less than 5 minutes, and for the most part, we really haven't seen we haven't really seen a lot of momentum change because of it. And what I will say is ridiculous is when they're playing indoors. Like in Houston, when the roof is closed and it's air conditioning, it's you don't need hydration breaks at that stage, right? But I digress.
I mean, I wish they'd just called it a tactical break. That's what it is, really. It's not a hydrate; it's a tactical break.
For sure.
I mean, for sure. Do you have it in the MLS? Is it something regular that you don't? Is it something that will be brought into the MLS? Do you think?
I hope not. MLS, by the way, Major League Soccer has enough problems already, and the last thing they need is hydration breaks. What's funny is that the league commissioner was recently on a Fox broadcast, and instead of actually asking the right questions, Alexi Lawless asked about hydration breaks and whether it would be in it. And I was like, this is the most tone-deaf thing that I've ever heard, because one of the things about Major League Soccer is the level of talent, the salary cap, and all the other things that go along with it that need to improve in order to raise the level of competition. And because it's on Apple, and a lot of people in this country aren't subscribed to Apple, we already have we have a bad enough time getting viewers to watch it to begin with anyways, on top of the level of competition. And imagine you bring the least popular aspect of this World Cup and put in Major League Soccer, it makes it even look worse. So it's I seriously hope Major League Soccer is looking at it no, that's not going to fly.
Yeah, I can probably see it in the really hot countries like probably South American football or Saudi Arabian football. I can see it going in there. Mate, just very quickly, Steve, as well. I don't know if you saw the Paraguay game last night and the refereeing.
I did.
In general, VAR and refereeing hasn't been that bad. But that referee last night, Steve, I hope he never referees a game again, because I thought he was so biased against the French. It was unreal. There is one referee I've seen. She's an American referee. And I watched her do a few games, and I thought she was fantastic. You didn't know she was refereeing.
Yeah, the chick. She's actually one of our best. She's one of our best. And what I like about her is that she doesn't bring bias into the game. She tries to call it straight up. And does she get calls wrong? Of course, every ref gets calls wrong. But one of the things that I didn't like was that refs in this tournament, VAR wasn't really stepping into a lot of decisions in the group stage. But as soon as we moved to the knockout round, all of a sudden VAR is intervening. Like that call on Flo Balogun, you mentioned that at the top, was the interesting thing about it. It was like, if you're going by the letter of the law, that is a cardable offense. And the referee was on top of it and actually gave a yellow card in real time. And VAR intervened, and you can tell that the referee on the field didn't like it. And all of a sudden, Balogun gets a red card where it's like, dude, you have two players that are being ultra physical, going after the ball. Flo Balogun steps on home dude's foot, but it wasn't intentional. There has to be some nuance involved in these calls. Yeah. Meanwhile, a guy like Leo Messi in the group stages does the exact same thing. VAR is like, nothing to see here. On top of the fact that it happened twice, U.S. versus Paraguay, it happened, no call. USA versus Australia, it happened again, no call. And now all of a sudden in the knockout rounds, you want to take away our talisman for a call that this entire crew that refed in the group stages weren't intervening on. So what's the issue? But what I will say about Paraguay France was I came away with that thinking to myself, at least there's a blueprint on how to beat France. Did I think the refereeing was terrible? 100%. But I also walked away thinking, like, I think we know how to beat France now. Apply pressure and keep on applying pressure, and maybe they'll crumble. But by the way, the things that Paraguay were doing were utterly disrespectful.
Yeah, I tell you one thing as well. There was one in there. He did a very Beckham-esque kick out, and Beckham got sent off for the same thing. How Mamapai didn't lose his temper. And I tell you one thing, that proves how much he's matured as well over the 4 years. I think 4 years ago, Mamapai would have lashed out and would have got himself sent off. And I think the French team as a whole have matured as well 4 years on from maybe 4 years ago. Look, for me, Cape Verde with the Irish, with Pico as well, absolutely pushed Argentina to the hill. Look, next week, Steve, we're going to talk more about the World Cup. I know there's a lot more that we'll want to talk about next week about the extended World Cup. It's here to stay, sadly. But I know you've got very good views on that. We're going to talk more about Tottenham. And so guys, Steve, do you want to tell a little bit about your channel, where people can find you? And also, have you got your own podcast? I know this is our one, but can people find you well? But can people find you, bud?
Yeah, you can find me on YouTube at Stateside Footy 27, and of course now we've reached that 500 sub plateau, and I'm hoping to get to 1,000 before the end of the World Cup. So do me a favor and head on over there and hit that like and subscribe, and hit the notification bell, as well as share some of the videos, because I need those minutes to kind of ratchet up a little bit. But I'm also active on X at Stateside Footy, and then of course on TikTok as well too. As a matter of fact, I did a whole breakdown this morning of England versus Mexico on a live stream there, and you can find me at Stateside Footy, STATESSIDE Footy, and that was actually a pretty fun live stream because England versus Mexico is a very, very, very tasty matchup that's going to happen tonight, I believe at 4:00 Eastern or something like that. Anyway, what I will say quickly on this is that it's all about the first 20 minutes for England. And of course, if you understand the history of England playing at Estadio Azteca, It's not really all that great. As a matter of fact, the hand of God at 86, and then of course in 1970 when Alf Ramsey was trying to defend his World Cup title, England didn't handle the altitude all that well in 1970. But what I will say is that I believe that quality will out. And I do believe that this is the worst Mexico roster I've seen in 30 years, and England's quality should be able to carry him through. But that being said, this is something that these players have never experienced with. And as somebody that has dealt with Mexico for the last 30, 35 years, I can tell you that even with bad Mexico teams, that home field advantage is something that they can overcome. Since 1950, in competitive matches at the Estadio Azteca, do you know what Mexico's record is, Derma?
2 defeats
70
out of 50.
Something
like that.
They're since 1950, they are 40. They are 47, 4-2 in competitive matches at Estadio Azteca. They've only lost twice, and you can say, well, they're playing Jamaica, and it's like who cares? The fact of the matter is you cannot prepare for the altitude, and you cannot prepare for the fact that Mexico understand how to beat you there, because it's all about the first 20, 25 minutes, because they're gonna press, and they're gonna press high. They're gonna try to put the ball in the back net within the first 20 minutes, getting that crowd involved. And when you have 120,000 fans sitting on top of you, Derma, and the fact that you're trying to get your legs underneath you, it's never a good combination. But what I will say is that if Thomas Tuchel can get this team to weather the first 20 minutes to get to that first hydration break, they'll be just fine.
Yeah. There is one stat that's out, Steve, and this is unreal.
Right.
I only found it out yesterday. There's only one British football team, that has Premier League team that has won in Mexico.
All right.
And that
lay it on me.
Tottenham Hotspur.
When did that happen?
Back in the 60s. I don't know how we played Mexico. I don't know why we were playing Mexico, but we're the only Premier League side, I think, and I think the stat's true, to win at the Aztec Stadium. And England last won there in 1966, and that year they went on to the World Cup. But Steve, you are right. It is 40 years to the day nearly. Well, it's afterwards. I think it was 29th of June. But it's 40 years on since that famous game where England lost 2-1 to Argentina, where a little magician, as I call him, Papa Smurf, came in, sprinkled a little bit of magic. Yeah, we can all say the first one should have been called off, but the second goal was probably...
I wonder how Gary Lineker still feels about this today. You know, I'm curious to know how Lineker feels about that hand to God goal.
He said he never saw it, but he said, and he's actually said this live on the podcast as well, he wanted to applaud the second goal. I mean, the second goal, Steve, was probably the greatest World Cup goal you're ever likely to see. But it should never have happened because Glenn Hoddle got fouled before Maradona got the ball. So, you know, it is what it is. 40 years on, we're still talking about it. 40 years later. It is amazing.
Because it was a goal that should never should have been allowed. And you know what the frustrating thing about it is? I've watched that game at least 10 times in my lifetime.
Yeah.
There was a referee standing within 5 feet of Maradona. He had the best look in the house and still gave him the goal. That's what baffles me, man. That's what baffles me. But just out of curiosity, how do you see this one? How do you see it going down today? Do you think England prevails?
Look, I've watched all the England games. I don't think they've played brilliant, Steve, to be fair. I think they've been pretty poor. They beat an Asian Croatian side. I think if that Croatian side was any sort of near its best, I think England would have struggled. I think they struggled against Congo. They struggled in the last 2 group games as well. I think they're either going to win on penalties, which I hope they don't, because I'm doing the watch along later to it, and I do not fancy being up at 6 in the morning doing that. Including with if there's any sort of delay, I'm going to cancel the watch along. I think England go through in penalties, or they will sneak a 1-0 win. But they don't. If it wasn't for Harry Kane, they would have been out the World Cup. But yeah, I think England go through. I think England will get to the semis, but my gut's telling me I think Argentina's going to win the World Cup.
Interesting. I said it just a second ago that if Thomas Tuchel gets it right and he manages the first 20, 25 minutes, I think England go through 2-0, 3-0, something like that, because I think their quality is just too good. But that being said, if he gets it wrong, then Mexico has the ability to take anybody to the sword. And I will say that this is a Jed Spence type of game where because of the way that Mexico likes to attack off the left-hand side, Jed Spence is going to have the game of his career to lock down Quiones. And here's the thing, Jed Spence, I got to be honest with you, he is what he is. And he was, for me, I thought it was kind of surprising that he actually made the World Cup squad, but this is the game where you have to prove people wrong. We have seen Jed Spence at his best with Spurs. There's moments where he put Mo Salah in his back pocket. He's been able to do some very good things when it comes to games. But that being said, he's also proven that he shows up when he wants to. He's had also stinkers with Spurs as well too. And but that being said, if he shows up and he does what we think that he's capable of doing, I think England will be just fine. But it can, like me personally, it can go either way. But I just feel that with Jude Bellingham, Harry Kane, Marcus Rashford, and if they start Bukayo Saka, I just think the quality is just out of this world. But also Declan Rice is going to have to come up large tonight as well too.
Yeah,
so,
I think so.
Yeah,
I think so. He's been all right, Declan Rice. I've been quite. Look, he's had Bellingham for me. He's had a good World Cup. I think he's the only player. But look, we'll get more to that next week. Steve, thank you so much for having me, man. This has been great. This is the episode number 1.
No, thank you. No.
Oh yeah.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me. And by the way, the United States wins 3-1. I'm saying it right now.
Yeah,
3-1 United States.
Yeah, I'm going with 2-0 USA as well. See, he's getting me now. He's getting me in the USA vibes. Yes, episode number 2 will be next week, and it will be live. So do join us for that.
Ooh.
But guys, thank you all for watching. Have a lovely week. We'll see you next Sunday. Whatever you do, remember it's football, not soccer. Get it right.
It's football
on that
not
bombshell.
Soccer. Come on, you Spurs and Yanks. Come on, you Yanks and Spurs.
I'm gonna have to say it now. Come on, you USA. Good night.